And there you go. There you
All
go.
right. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Pleasure. We've said before in several other committees, maybe even in this committee, chat is disabled in this committee. I would highly recommend that you reset the settings of Zoom to allow members on Zoom to chat to the Zoom host so that I could have let them know at the very beginning of the meeting that the recording wasn't working. We have no way of contacting you to let you know that there's a technical problem, and that would be a very easy fix. There is indeed a setting in Zoom where you can chat only to the Zoom host, not to everyone in the meeting, just to the Zoom host.
Great. Thank you. That's a good suggestion.
So my public comments for tonight are related to the 242 church. I hope Mark Smith is there tonight to help explain the scientific background of the Gelman dioxane testing. The report tonight, the OTM report in the agenda packet, 52 pages of it, I think it was, nowhere in there does it talk about the sensitivity of the US EPA method 8260, I think it is, for the dioxane testing. And all it says is non-detect. Now, is that non-detect at 500 parts per billion, or is that non-detect at 5 parts per billion? What is the sensitivity of the test that they're referring to? And I looked at Keith Gadway's comments, and he didn't talk about the sensitivity. And even on the US EPA website for that method 8260, it doesn't talk about the sensitivity. So that's what the test they use. What's the sensitivity of it? And I hope Mark is there and can explain that. It's the duty of the Planning Commission to make sure those 150 kids are protected while they're at this daycare. I fully support this daycare, but let's make sure that they're very protected and very safe. And if they have to go the extra mile to make sure that they're safe because of the Gelman dioxane plume history right on that site where 880,000 pounds of dioxane was dumped, let's make sure they're safe. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close public comments. Moved by Moore, supported by Walsh. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Public comment is closed at 7:06. That. Moving on to approval of minutes. We have our 6:10 meeting minutes in the packet.
Move to approve the minutes of June 10th of 2024.
Support by Riser.
Okay, moved by Moore, supported by Commissioner Riser. Further discussion. Right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved as posted. We'll move on to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is the Birdsell Properties Heritage Collision Auto Repair, CU number 24005. And for public hearings, sort of the agenda of the public hearing is we hear from the applicant and then any clarifying questions from the Planning Commission. We'll hear from our plan reviewer. Yeah, and then we typically then open it up for public participation and comment, and then we close the public hearing, and later on, and under new business, there is the possibility of action. All right. So with that, it's 7:08. And I'll declare the public hearing for CU number 24005, the Birdsell, and pardon me if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. Birdsell, thank you. Properties Heritage Collision Auto Repair. So welcome. All right.
I'm Charlie Kahn with Swisher Commercial. I'm the real estate broker representing Birdsell Properties. Joe Manning, welcome. Sign in the appropriate spot. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, what's your name again?
My name is Charlie Kahn. Aoenn.
Give a brief overview and then you can get to the details or.
Yeah.
So this is the previous project we brought before you for rezoning. It's basically just the continuation of that. Rezoning, to be able to provide heritage collision secondary. Facility for repair of automobile. So it's conditional use to do that, service. Guess I don't know how far in detail you want me to go, because you've already seen this once before, so.
Just briefly go through the uses and.
So it's an existing, building on site, existing parking, existing fencing. They plan to use this facility, as a secondary location for their existing facility that's off of Jackson Road. They have a not really backwoods, but an easement to travel between the two, so they don't have to go on Jackson Road, to proceed between the units. The idea here is this is just for employees only. No customers visit this site.
So a customer drop off and pick up, once the cars are dropped off and picked off, will continue to be at their Jackson Road location. And the easement is on the north end of the neighboring property, in the back of their lot. There's not a drive there now, but they plan to install one. There is an easement there. There's also an existing easement that they have now that is between the properties that are at the tow yard facility next door and the front vacant lot that the township owns.
And our rezoning process has been completed with the township board and it's completely signed.
Any clarifying questions from commissioners?
I'll just add a couple things. As Joe and Charlie alluded to, the property was conditionally rezoned to I2 back on April 23rd. With 3 conditions that were voluntarily offered by the applicant, that the rezoning is limited to only major vehicle repair facilities and vehicle collision repair. So this is the conditional use that is associated with that conditional rezoning. And as Joe said, they're not adding any impervious surface and the site will only be used by employees. Those are the other 2 conditions. As part of the conditional rezoning, we also did kind of the same analysis with neighboring land uses. It's an industrial area. It's an existing site that they're going to utilize how it is currently built. Development potential is limited to that vehicle collision service use. We did have a number of just clarifying items that would be helpful to know before this proceeds further to the Board of Trustees. One, that the applicant provide a description of the use of the outdoor gravel area that's proposed to be fenced. We just would want to know what's going to be stored there, how many cars, the duration, those types of things. The total number of cars to be stored and the number of proposed service space, so we can ensure we know exactly what's going on there. The township engineer did not review this conditional use because it's specific to internal existing components of the site. So I did speak with Stacy earlier today, and she might be able to talk about the existing sanitary, which is likely what's going to be utilized for the use. We would also like them to clarify all vehicles that will be indoors. I'm sorry, all vehicle services that will be indoors. Which we paint booth or, other things that might go along with the collision type of use. And then provide parking location for any tow vehicles, if any, that will be on this property. And information on the parking of damaged vehicles on the gravel surface east of the building. And the potential of any leaking hazardous fluids. Is what we're concerned about. I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Just going back to the applicant, did you want to address any of those items?
Sure. So there won't be any damaged vehicles stored on the gravel area. And they do not own any tow trucks. They always have that service provided by a different contractor, so there won't be any tow trucks stored there. The services indoors include 2 paint booths, hoists for service, an alignment rack, and another bay area that helps do the alignment for all of the vehicles, the newer vehicles that have the sensor controls and everything. As well as an area for prep and then detail and then I don't think they have the total number of bays finalized yet in their floor plan layout,
Yeah,
because they're still working with that. You have it?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, perfect.
So the cover sheet says about 12 service bays.
Yep, that's right.
And 4 vehicle prep bays, so a total of 16.
Mhm.
That was not on there. Yeah. This
One
is-
other question, could you clarify, you mentioned that there was a drive going in and there wasn't a drive currently, can,
It's an easement on the backside of the old Grant's towing area. That there's a 33-foot easement there, and then there's an existing traffic that's on the south side of Grant's that is actually part of Brazel's property. That is behind Men on the Move, and then the vacant lot that the township owns that goes through that way.
So it's not on this property, it's on the existing property that would,
Existing property.
that would
yes.
help provide access around the back.
yeah,
So they won't have to traverse Jackson Road.
Correct.
yeah, but are we adding to impervious surfaces with that drive?
It's not on
There's
this
a gravel drive there now.
There's an existing gravel drive there, okay, so, okay. So it's not new, it's gonna be resurfaced, just
It's all
that,
grown over, but it's been an existing drive that's been there for a long time, they just haven't.
and is it gonna continue to be gravel?
Yes.
Okay, so you're just gonna clean it up,
Yes.
basically, and, yeah, gravel.
Brush hog the weeds.
Yeah.
Grate it.
Yeah, so the only item that I had remaining that I didn't hear an answer about, Charlie, was, provide a description of the use of the outdoor gravel area proposed to be fenced. You know what they're gonna do in the fenced area there?
So most of that area is gonna be either extra, like they have big shipments of supplies that get dropped off there, parts storage. And because it's not a full secure area, you know, they're not gonna leave anything out there very long.
Just extra.
Yeah. And potentially extra, well, they don't need, there's not gonna be a ton of employees there, so they don't really need that for parking, there's, yeah. It's just an extra overflow area if they need it.
Any other clarifying questions? And, I'll go ahead, is there anyone present in Township Hall that would like to address the planning commission on this condition? Seeing none, I'll move to anyone online. Yes. Rob Pitt. All right.
I apologize for the tangent point on public comments at the beginning. I forgot to mention that the minister of 242 said at the last meeting that there are yearly dioxane tests that they have, but I did not see those in the agenda packet. I apologize for not addressing this specifically, this item.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else?
No.
Then I'll introduce,
Close public hearing.
okay, motion by Walsh, support by Yeaple. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Opposed, public hearing at 7:17. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our second public hearing, and that's Dexter Auxiliary Services, minor auto repair. And if the applicant would like to come forward, great. And I'll open the public hearing at 7:18.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam President and Commission members. My name is Ashley Bracknell from Live Development, address 9990 East Highland Road, Howell, Michigan. I am here on behalf of our Chevy building, our Chevy service building. So 7240 Jackson Road will act as we're proposing for auxiliary service in support of our main Chevy dealership. So it's going to encompass light service There's not going to be any painting. It's not going to be a body shop and no heavy engine work. It will not be a customer facing facility. Pickup and drop off will remain at our Chevy location. So this will not have any heavy traffic impacts to the area. We do have a proposal for electrical service upgrade for supportive EV cars that will be serviced at this location. The reason for that would be we need dedicated charging bays because electronic vehicles take twice as long per bay. So just so we can keep service more fluid. The hours of operation would be Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 6, and Saturday, 8 to 2, closed on Sundays. The current address, it's zoned limited industrial and service is a conditional use under that, so that's what we're seeking approval for.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
You're seeking a zoning change?
Not a zoning change, a conditional use. The property is zoned I-1 limited industrial and the service is a conditional use under.
Can you say the address of your existing store, the Chevy store?
7120 Dexter and River Road.
Thank you.
We'll move to our planners review.
Sure. So as Ashley said, this is a conditional use to allow a minor motor vehicle repair facility in the north half of the existing building located at 7240 Jackson Road. It's approximately 10,000 square feet of space. The existing building is already broken into 2 tenant spaces, so they would be utilizing the northern portion. We did have a couple questions. This is zoned industrial. It's adjacent to industrially zoned property. This type of use is consistent with the master plan, and meets the conditional use standards. But we did have a number of just clarifying issues like we had for the last application. Ashley did a great job explaining what auxiliary service building is. It's meant for, employees to transport vehicles for service and then back to the main facility. Again, because this is a conditional use, that there were no changes proposed to the exterior, portions of the site. The township engineer has not reviewed, but if there's specific questions about utilities, Stacy has been made aware. The applicant did provide location of parking spaces for the existing tenant, but we wanted to make sure that there were any required barrier-free spaces, and the spaces where employees would park are denoted on the plan as well. We also wondered if there would be any truck loading or at this location, and they should also provide the circulation for emergency vehicles and how that would be accommodated. We're also interested in how hazardous substances would be handled and contained on site. For other minor auto repair facilities, we've made sure that floor drains were not going to be utilized and that oil separators were provided. We would also like them to indicate whether outdoor storage of vehicles is proposed, and if so, for what duration. And then they should also provide the total number of vehicles to be stored at any one time. And if they are gonna have any towing vehicles, this facility. Couple clarifying things.
Okay. Did you want to address any of those?
Yeah, I can address some of them and if it's acceptable, I know my director, Gary Longroche or Dan LaFontaine could answer some of the remainders. So we were planning on having a trench drain with an oil water separator. So just to answer that one. Damaged vehicles. Vehicles for service would be there short term, but nothing inoperable. We wouldn't have vehicles that aren't functioning stored on site. And then parts would be kept at our Chevy location. They wouldn't be stored at this housing.
And yeah, if there's another representative of the applicant that wants to come up and respond to any of the other questions. And just sign in, please.
Lauren, would you mind?
Yeah,
I am Gary Landroche, also with Lag Development.
How many employees will be here and what type of what parking needs do you have?
5 or 6 employees at max at any one time. Our plan was to utilize the existing setup that was already there. They've got kind of a parking lot in the back. I'm not even quite sure how many, it'll hold easily 20 vehicles.
It's quite a large.
Yeah.
Quite a large.
Yeah, but these vehicles are going to be brought over by a porter for service work. And he's like taking one back with him, so it's just more of a flex. It isn't a storage facility.
And you do it there because you don't have enough bays, or this is a special for electric vehicles, or what's the?
No, the electric vehicles contribute to the need for this because of the electric vehicle in a service bay sits there charging for so long, it renders that bay not used, right? It sort of takes up a lot of space. So some of the electric vehicles will go there, and it's just, service is very heavy. People are retaining their vehicles, they're keeping them longer. For whatever reason, it's good for us, that service is good, but we just need more capacity.
But the public's not gonna drive there, they're gonna drive to your main operations, and then you folks will drive them there unless they're not, or put them on a flatbed. depending
No,
on-
we'll drive them there. No tow trucks will be there and no delivery vehicles, no haulers.
So it's about a mile, how far down the road is it?
It's about 1.5 miles. Obviously, certain vehicles wouldn't make that truck if they're brought in inoperable or even something that doesn't have a tire or something. Those would be serviced at the location where they're brought
Will
in.
those cars be kept out front or in the back?
Nope, in the back.
Am I exceeding clarifying questions, by the way? I mean,
No, I think they're clarifying.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the southern portion, which is the road frontage, is going to be remain the existing building owner does tennis lessons. And so he's keeping his operation for at least 5 years in there. And that's why we have designated parking shown and that whole front portion that he's using there. I don't know whether he has ADA stalls, whatever his existing operation is. We don't have any plans to have any encroachment on his space whatsoever. The only directional signage we would have is really for his customers to know where they can park to go straight in for their tennis
So
lessons.
you're not gonna need outside advertising or even outside advertising because you don't want.
Not at all.
You don't want people, it's like an inside baseball kind of thing.
It is not customer facing.
And is footprint staying the same?
It is.
And then whatever you need to do for oils and exhaust, and what about that aspect?
What limited supplies that will be maintained in there? We have really, it's a company that we use for all of our environmental issues, corporate wide. So everything that we do is in a dual wall storage tank and in a secondary containment system. So we have to worry about all the EPA issues, and that's why Ashley said that we would be putting in a trench drain that is tied into oil water separator.
How many are you gonna employ?
6 to 7 probably in there at any one time.
Probably more than that, but 6 at one time.
Yeah, there's not that much room in there. You couldn't have too many. A technician will even have 2 bays because he'll probably have an EV vehicle being charged in one bay, sitting there for quite a while, maybe working on something else.
A
Yeah.
process question, is it your intent at some point after 5 years, perhaps expanding, and would that require and coming back for a conditional use, because this conditional use is specific to this portion of the building?
Correct.
Like if the tennis,
In that case, we will be back in 5 years, yes.
is that your long-time goal, maybe?
Well, it is. We're actually purchasing the building. We've negotiated the deal with the seller because he wants to maintain his operation for a period of time. He wanted 5 years. And so we've allowed him to have the 5-year lease on the front, or the southern portion of the building.
Any other clarifying questions?
Yes, sir. Say the D word.
All right, is there anyone else?
You're not planning, I would just ask, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've been very concerned at the township about the spread of dealerships along Jackson Road. And I wanted to understand what your intent is down the road, on your intent. Do you have any plan in the future to create another dealership?
Or sales operation or used car,
On that
cars,
property?
yes, used car
We
sales.
share that same concern with you,
Mhm.
but no, we would not be proposing any kind of a dealership operation out of this. This is strictly an auxiliary service facility for us. It is not, nor will it ever be intended to be a sales facility.
And it's not zoned appropriately either.
No, but I guess I share Commissioner Moore's concern that it's like a foot in the door to a dealership that's pretty far west. Potentially. But you're assuaging our concerns in that regard.
Yes, yeah, the dealership row is not migrating west. We do operate the Buick GMC store also east of this location, also on Jackson, right? You guys are familiar with that one too. But I think you also know that zoning is very restrictive in that whole corridor. There's literally no other property you could put a dealership on other than what Suburban is doing right now.
So we like it.
Lithia?
Lithia, yes.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, and with that, I'll open a public comment for those that are in Township Hall. Seeing no one, I'll give to the online folks. Kathleen Green. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello, Planning Commission. This particular site interests me because of the usage and the parking. So what I understand, which I anticipated, is they have no customers, no public facing, and that only employees would be going in there and coming back. And so the rigid need for 3 parking spots per bay, in the sense of sustainability and climate action, can the planning commission keep the existing parking and not add to it if they really don't need it at this time? It would make sense not to do grading and put more solid surface down if they can manage with what they have. And the same consideration for ADA parking if they see no need for that. And that would allow that they would not have to add additional asphalt concrete. Can the planning commission consider that as an option instead of rigid enforcement of the zoning? That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. There are no others. All right.
Move to close public.
All right. Moved by Commissioner Moore and seconded by Commissioner Yable. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right. Public hearing is closed at 7:32. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, okay, so we're moving on to unfinished business, possible action, conditional use, PSP, 24008, 242 Church. We're sort of keeping up, Laura, did you want to just maybe, give us,
Update?
Sure. So at our last meeting, we held the public hearing for the conditional use for 242 Church to add a daycare facility within their existing interior where their kids club currently is. The only exterior improvement is the required outdoor play area that would be at the rear of the structure, fenced in. There was some concern about the dioxane since this is the former Gelman property. The applicant, at the meeting and after the meeting, provided, the soil testing that was done prior to the church, taking ownership of the property. In addition, and I think the covenants, and the master deed, we have all that information for you. We also had the township's, expert, Keith Gadway of Quantum Environmental look at the soil testing that was done in 2016. You have that email in your packet as well. I am not gonna claim to be an expert in dioxane or, but I will read, Keith's conclusion for you. Let's see. 1,4-dioxane is completely miscible in water and considered to be mobile within soil spaces. Volatilization of dioxane occurs from moist and dry soil surfaces, albeit at a relatively low rate. Studies and remediation efforts at the site have focused primarily on the presence of dioxane in deeper soil and in groundwater. A significant period of time has passed since the last spray application of contaminated water, more than 200 feet from the subject area. And any superficial contamination has likely degraded, volatilized, or been transported vertically by natural physical processes. While there are no samples in the reviewed materials specifically within the boundaries of the play area, I believe it is highly unlikely that the dioxane contamination exists at that location.
Okay, thank you. And I see, we do have a couple representatives here, so if you would like to just introduce yourselves.
I'd love to introduce us. Thanks for having us over again. My name is Abo. I'm the campus pastor for 242 at this location. I don't know if you know, we've got 7 locations. So I lead the Ann Arbor location. And with me is Eric Rauch, who's executive pastor of operations and really oversees all the locations. And one of the reasons I have him here is that he's been part of the conversation from the beginning, part of the designing the building, a lot of the conversations, including any conversations with Mark Smith, who I know has been mentioned here. So I just wanted to have him come on over and add any additional comments. I think we tackled all the other issues last time, issues of parking, and I think we took care of those too. Today, we really need to address, I guess, the REUs and also just touching back on the issue of testing. Right.
And we did get a review from, memo from OHM. Does anyone have any questions on that there are no additional REUs required? And would you clarify too, I think, there was some mention of some other testing that was done in the interim, but our understanding is the soils testing was done in 2015, 2016. And
that's been the one we use up until now, but Eric would want to talk about opinion.
Yeah, and I apologize. I couldn't be here a couple of weeks ago. I also serve on a planning commission in the community I live in and had a conflict there. So, but appreciate all the concerns and the comments from the public as well, and share everyone's commitment to making sure that we have a healthy and safe environment for all people of all ages to be a part of there. So from the very start, this has been a very serious subject for us as we entered into an agreement to be on this property. With that said, REUs are taken care of, but then when it comes to the testing, we did through PM Environmental, hired them to do the testing on the site with those soil borings. The other,
When was that?
that was in 2016, and that's
When
the
you received.
report that you received. Also, across all the former Gelman properties, one of the confusing things here is it's not just our site, but the neighboring sites too, were all one big parcel at one time. Actually, the parcels to the south, which is what 242 owns, actually didn't have, I want to be careful here, but didn't have a lot of the contaminated parts of that site weren't on the site that we own. It's actually mostly to the north. And sadly, the aquifer actually kind of moves to the northeast, as you guys are well aware of too. And so kind of right borders the church property. But the soil borings that we did in 2016 have that conclusion that Keith provided. The EPA also has an easement over all the former Gelman properties to be able to access those, and on a regular basis, for sure yearly, but I think it's more often, to continue to do testing. We don't necessarily find out about the conclusions of those unless something has changed in a negative fashion. since 2016, we've not had any negative, conversations with EPA that something has changed into the negative area. And so, our conclusions from that is over the last 8 years, that things have continued to at least stay the same from the report in 2016. So that's the conditions there. So there's basically an easement over our entire property that gives them full access to the site. And they regularly conduct those. And so that's what the reference is in those regards, is that they are highly involved on the properties you guys are aware of.
And I just wanted to ask one more question. When I was looking at what's required for daycare licensing, there is an environmental health application to Washtenaw County Environmental Health. I was just wondering, have you submitted that yet?
That has not been submitted, and in our agreement with the operator for the daycare, we are to obtain these permits, and then after that, they are to obtain all the licensing permits specific to the daycare itself. In doing those in the past, I know that many of those environmental features are actually contained within inside the building, but they will take.
It's lead primarily.
Exactly.
So lead.
Yeah.
And would you be willing to provide the soils testing and the reports to the county for them to also consider the area of the playground?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I guess just another clarifying question along that line, you said the operator, so is 242 not the operator in this case?
Correct. Yeah, we are, a daycare operator will, have the actual licensing of the daycare. And they'll be leasing the space from 242 for that, be the southwest corner of the building.
Like a corrections house or somebody like that, something like that.
We wanna-
You're doing it to monetize the space or to meet the need for daycare for staff, for your congregants, for what?
It is both. In a sense, I mean, they're leasing the space from us, so we will incur revenue for that. But also, we know we are serving the community actually on the campus with the other businesses that operate around there. This has been a talk for a while, like if you guys would be able to open one, would help us a whole lot.
Yeah.
So we've held back on it for a while and feel like this is the time to be able to do that.
Has there been any thought to getting new borings in the area just to see if it's moved, if it's still, what the status is 8 years later? Help me with the math, Kim.
So yeah, certainly if this commission finds that, to be helpful, we're all for sure willing to do that. I would mention, just like Keith's report provided or his comment memo provided, we do have soil borings around that area. And those borings directly adjacent to that area do not show anything else. And so there's an assumption that what is within confined in that space, then in that circle, if you will, is also of the same findings. Well, yeah, of course we do. And, but we're also, within 100 feet of that too, so we feel confident of that.
And again, our post has been with the EPA, testing frequently that they would flag that for us, and we would want them to, because.
Are they testing?
EPA?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On that locus and quo?
No, also borings, there's four that
Testing,
they're,
monitoring, are they testing there? I mean, it's one thing to test it randomly in certain areas, it's another to intentionally put a playground for kids in the soil there without really knowing what's there to a recent test. I mean, that's my take. I don't know what this commission feels.
so there's monitoring wells all throughout the site. Those monitoring wells are permanent and they dig
For the water.
for the water.
So we won't have the kids drink the water down there. But what about the kids on the soil?
Yeah, on the soil itself, that's what the 2016 documents show. And again, if this commission would find it helpful to have us do those, you know, we're happy to do it. We feel comfortable with it, having done our research over the years, but.
Mr. Riser, I can give you two things I drew from a conclusion out of these documents, just to sort of tell you a little bit. These have levels to how, what material, what substrate of soils in here. I'm not a scientist, I just read a lot of these because I've had them done on my own property before. They've gone down about 15+ feet in different spaces. I haven't seen a specific map of where these are. But they've gone down and it detects very small undetectable traces, and some it's 0, some it's 0.1, some it's 0 again. To your point, you could likely do the soil testing in that location again, but to their point, if most of it happened in the north, something we ultimately have to decide as a group, but.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of move to
Move
our deliberation.
Mhm.
Any questions on the REU memo
Mm-mm.
at all?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Everyone that for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, yeah, thoughts, it seems like there's either, I mean, we make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. I just wanted to observe, if you looked at some of Keith Gadway's work that he had, for instance, Knights of Columbus, he generally was, I mean, for him to say that it was highly unlikely, it is, I take that wording very seriously, as opposed to some of the responses he gave in the case of the water migration and so forth at Knights of Columbus. However, I do think that we do have and we also have a check with the, we are not experts on the soil, but the check would be the Environmental Health Department at the county. And so we do have that. So I'm just trying to, you know, in the
No, I-
recommendation of the motion, there
No,
might be some
yeah,
options
I
there.
appreciate staying in my lane and, you know, I'm not
No,
the EPA and I'm not the county health and I'm not Gadway. And if you say he's a conservative guy and even he's not worried, then that's worth something to me. But
Yeah, but I do think that we do have, you know, obviously part of the health and safety of, you know, of our residents and certainly children are a part of what we consider. So I just wanted to bring up those couple points just to see how planning commissioners, you know, if there were some conditions that we wanted to place on the recommendation.
So, I presume that it was highly unlikely that in 2016, your OPM assessment included the new level of testing that's out there today. So I don't know if you've heard one of our residents bring up the point that nowadays there's a more refined test that picks up even, I don't know if this is the correct way to say it, but lower levels of dioxin.
Although that's in
Dioxin, and I doubt
water,
if the 2016,
in water.
oh, in water. Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
that's a water test as opposed to the soil test. It's a different medium. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know if there are, you know, this is these tests are very standard for contaminated soils. But we know about standard tests. Yeah, go ahead.
How long has the church building been there?
We started operations in Easter of 2017.
This was before or after all the testing. How much soil was moved and disturbed and all of that after testing?
All that was disturbed was the increase to the size of the detention area and the new parking area that came to the south of the building.
is that where the COVID shots were, that parking lot?
And there's more beyond that too, roughly 200 spaces in there.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Commissioners, Commissioner Yeaple, you were saying something about what your
Oh,
thoughts
so.
were around on the confirmation testing.
Two thoughts you could go in this direction. I'm not ultimately gonna be up to who wants to make this motion. we could rely on the information, we've been, well, there's three ways I think of it. We could rely on the information from the applicant and what Keith Gatway's assessment of the situation is. We could sort of to your concession point, ask Washington County Environmental Health for their evaluation of it. Or probably the most restrictive of the three is we could guess require, however you would want to word it, specific soil testing out within the perimeter of the.
And that would be following the recommendation, if you wanted to make confirming soil samples, which Keith Gadway said. Okay, I think that outlines it pretty well.
I'm curious what Mr. Walsh has to say.
I think Keith's right. I think the science says it's probably good. I think the samples taken before say it's probably good. But this is Gelman. It's a contentious and highly visible thing for the township. I don't know that probable is good enough. I think we need to be certain.
If I could just piggyback on that, I think we should go along with the expert. We saw his opinion, let's adopt that recommendation at the end there, where he says that he recommends 3 shallow borings be placed within the footprint of the play area. And samples collected from 1 to 2 feet below grade, 3 to 4 feet below grade, within location, analyze the seeds.
I think that's getting back to what Commissioner Gable said, the last condition is, if we want to be certain, that's the thing to do.
Well-
And I suspect we want to be certain in this case.
And I would like to add to that, then those, the existing testing and the confirming soils tests be submitted to, the Washington County Environmental Health.
Are you writing these down on this? A lot of cool things are kind of coming out there. Just if someone's going to ultimately make a motion that's going to have conditions with respect to the health department with new shallow borings of a certain location and, you know, and the disclosure of tests, I mean, we got to get this one right. Not that we don't have that on others, but you don't
I understand.
Yeah, well, I think we have the wording from Keith Gadway's memo. And then we have the testing that was submitted, the 2016 testing results. And then we have the environmental health application for the daycare center. That the confirming soils testing and the original testing be submitted with that application. For review by the environmental. Okay. So, somebody, I can pull up Keith Gadway. Well, somebody else has to
I
make
have
that
it right
motion.
now.
Okay, good.
I can start if you want to edit it.
All right.
Let me know. Do I read the whole?
We do have also the
Model.
beginning, yeah, the whole model,
Okay.
and then our conditions. I mean, I assume people are, it seems like folks,
Does anyone want to add anything else before we?
I'm prepared to go forward with the project with that.
Those conditions? Yeah.
Andrea, do you have any?
Yes. We're on that.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Based upon the information received from the applicant and reflected in the minutes of this meeting, the planning commission finds the conditional use and related information received by the township meets the required standards and findings for conditional land use and recommends approval. Specifically, it is found that the following required standards and findings found in section 36-224 of the zoning ordinance have been demonstrated by the applicant. A, will be harmonious and in accordance with the objectives and regulations of this ordinance. B, will be compatible with natural environment and existing and future land use in the vicinity. C, that the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage ways, refuse disposal, or that the persons or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequately any such service. D, that the proposed use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to the existing or future neighbor uses, persons, property, or the public welfare. E, that the proposed use will not be that the proposed use will not create additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services that will be detrimental to the economical welfare of the community. F, will be compatible with the township's adopted general development plan. Further, the planning commission recommends the following conditions be placed on the subject conditional land use. 1, provide state license information to the township once issued. 2, per Keith Gadway's recommendation email, 3 shallow borings be placed within the footprint of the play area and samples collected from 1 to 2 feet below grade and 3 to 4 feet below grade at each location and analyzed for VOCs, including 1,4 dioxane.
And would you accept the friendly amendment that the results of the 2016 test be supplied to the Washington County Health Department, to Scio Township, and to its environmental engineer for review?
Correct, I would take that.
Second, with the friendly amendment.
I would also, with the environmental health department, I think, with the environmental health application for the daycare center,
Mhm.
so that it's a part of the application process.
To the state, you mean?
No, to the, it's a county, yeah.
I mean, so part of the Washington County Environmental Health as part of its application?
Yeah, it's daycare, as part of the daycare
Okay.
application.
That's friendly to the friendly.
And I'd like to refer to it as confirming soil testing, as Keith
I
Gadway
like
did
that.
in his memo. Clarifies it from some things that I had. Okay, and there was support from Commissioner Moore. Okay, is there further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, this will come to the board for ultimate decision, correct?
Correct, it's a recommendation.
And will the board have the benefit of the borings, or when does it, what's the timeline of this?
So typically, items don't get moved to the board until conditions have been met, to the extent that they can, right? Because the applicant has said that they're not going to apply for the licensing component of this. So, we would need confirmation that the soil testing has happened, and the results of that information, prior to this getting on a board agenda.
Okay.
So, typically it takes a month to get from here to there anyway. So maybe you're 6 or 8 weeks instead of 4 weeks. I don't know how long.
Thank you for that. Right, any further discussion? Right, a roll call vote on the motion, please.
Gable,
Yes.
Rothman,
Yes.
Riser,
Yes.
Walsh, yes, Moore,
Yes.
Culbertson.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yep.
Approved with conditions.
So 3. 3 of them.
Okay, then, the next, agenda item is possible action on the Heritage, collision auto repair. And I guess I just wanna, get sort of a consensus that, where the board thinks that this is ready for, deliberation and action.
The heritage collision.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this has been before for months.
Yeah.
Yep, I just checking, yeah. So people know that it's not always action the same night as a public hearing. Yep, okay,
We've heard this one a lot.
yep, all right. I just wanted to ask, is Stacy on? Yes. Can you come over? If there, I know you, Laura, you.
Yeah, I gave my, I mean, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I think I've
Yeah, just wanted to check in and make sure there wasn't anything in, what, the use, the paint, any of that. Or you had any, things that we should check.
I think that's a no from Laura.
I think you're asking Stacy.
Yes.
Can you repeat what the question was?
Sure, we're deliberating on Heritage Collision. And based on the information that the applicant provided this evening, which was, sort of clarifying what the operations were and so forth. Did you have anything else that you needed clarifying or that you wanted to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to commissioners.
It sounds like we flushed out all the issues. Yeah, someone's fine.
Yeah, I've had all my questions answered.
As myself.
Unless Laura's got anything on the list that we haven't covered, I've got everything.
I think they covered everything on my list, yeah.
So we could just defer the applicant's responses.
I don't mean to be
Uh-huh.
smart alecky, but Kim prompted me when she said flushed out all the issues. Is there gonna be a big water, is REUs gonna stay the same?
That's a question for Stacy.
Yeah, I would anticipate that it would, right?
Yeah, that's what we had noted on our site plan is basically no change.
There's no washing or anything
Right.
happening.
Other than a car?
All right.
I have a sort of a question. I mean, it is a question, but I was just thinking. Because they purchased this as additional property, it would come with additional REUs. Is that correct way of thinking about it, Stacy?
No, it would come with whatever REUs were
In the building?
assigned to it.
Right, but now they own that building, so they would get the additional REUs assigned to that property.
Correct.
And I guess Stacy, just to tag on to that, we can't just willy-nilly take RUs from building A, give them to building B, correct? Like, if you own multiple buildings of the township. like it's-
Correct. They're assigned to the specific address.
Yeah, I can see somebody coming up maybe plausibly with that idea someday.
No, it's connected to the land.
Well, Commissioner Reiser's looking.
I'm gonna vote for this. I'm in favor of this, but these REU questions have me thinking. Are REUs something we can claw back, or is REUs are they a right or something that runs with the land? Or is it just a way that we figure out how much sewer capacity we need and a given location is going to use? That's more what I think of it as, rather than some sort of property right. I think of it as
No, it's not a property.
is a dashboard, kind of, a way
It's
of.
my understanding that properties along the Jackson Road corridor have been assigned, some that I should say, those property owners that bought into this system, they were assigned a certain amount of RUs. Some people didn't, and they get assigned RUs later.
But do we monitor that? It's like all of a sudden they start flushing their toilets more? Or, I mean, is that something that we enforce? Like I say, a property right or something, or is it just something that we use to allocate a scarce resource?
Stacy, I'll have you answer that.
To my knowledge, it does run with the land and can change, I guess, depending on the use. If the following use needs more, they'll request more and generally will get it if capacity allows. If they happen to use less, the only way of us truly knowing that is monitoring it and doing a rate study, which hasn't been done in years, and that's probably one of the next steps that township will be considering, is to see exactly what's left and what properties are using what, so we can have a better idea of that for the future.
But there's no document that says Scio Township hereby conveys upon the party of the second part, REUs not to exceed blah, blah, blah. We don't do anything like that.
Like title work or
There's nothing that formal, right? Or is there, Stacy?
No, it's not that formal.
Okay.
It's really just, I mean, I guess I don't know how far back it goes, but with all the meeting minutes, they're generally included in there when they're approved, but we have a really old document that does keep track of it, but it has not been updated in years and is old, let's just put it that way.
Okay, no, thank you. That's getting a feel, but thank you.
Then I think we're ready for a motion.
let's read.
I don't mind reading it, but I will ask informally, and especially to you, Laura, have 1 through 6 been addressed? Do we still want them there?
No, I think they can be removed. The applicant this evening answered all of those questions in their presentation. If
So,
you're comfortable.
okay, and I would ask commissioners, if I read it, which I'm going to, if you want to propose putting any of the 1 through 6 in, I would accept such a friendly amendment, but until then, I would move that based upon the information received from the applicant and reflected in the minutes of this meeting, the planning commission finds the conditional use and related information received by the township meets the required standards and findings for conditional land use and recommends approval. Specifically, it is found that the following required standards and findings found in section 36-224 of Scio zoning ordinance have been demonstrated by the applicant. A, it will be harmonious and in accordance with the objectives and regulations of this ordinance. B, it will be compatible with the natural environment and existing and future land uses in the vicinity. C, that the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public service facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage ways, refuse disposal, or that the person or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequately any such service. D, that the proposed use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to the existing or future neighboring uses, persons, property, or the public welfare. E, that the proposed use will not create additional requirements at public costs for public facilities and services that will be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Finally, F, it will be compatible with the township's adopted general development plan.
Do we mean master plan?
That's what the general
That's-
development is saying.
Oh,
And do we need to embed anything or add conditions like the total number of cars, or do we need to memorialize what they've represented on this record into this, or?
I would just add that, this is also a conditionally rezoned property, which is limited to the major repair, no new impervious surface, and only employees can utilize this.
So even though you can't make a friendly amendment, can I parrot the words you just said? That the use shall be limited to major auto repair, comma, shall be used only by employees and not public facing, comma, and what was the third one?
No new impervious surface.
No new impervious soil shall be added to the parcel.
Surface.
What did I say? Soil. No dirt. Surface to the parcel.
Can I make one friendly amendment?
Yes,
This is for conditional land use number 24005.
yes, the Vercel heritage
Yes.
solution. Thank you for the, thank you.
Okay. Is there support for that motion?
Support.
support.
Support by Commissioner Walsh. Further discussion? Right. Roll call vote?
Riser,
Yes.
Walsh, yes, Rosny,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Gable,
Yes.
Culbertson.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Extra auxiliary.
Use limited term funds. Yes. Surplus.
All right, well, I just wanted to check in with Stacy to see, based on the information that the applicant provided this evening, do you have any further questions or comments?
Yeah, the only thing I would note is I did not see any information on REUs for this one. I'm sure it will be asked by one of you tonight. It looks like it should be pretty minor, based on what I see, that the table A that we referenced for the calculations with the use of general industrial, which it seems to be the most appropriate, and using the 10,086 square feet that I found in Carlisle Wortman's review letter, they would only need 1.3 REUs.
Stacy,
And that's,
building.
go ahead.
Did any REUs at this point according to your records or no?
Oh, I should mention that that's very important as well. So thank you for asking. They have 4.7 existing REUs, so they should not need any additional, but we could confirm with the existing use in addition to the proposed use, because that ultimately is what goes into that 4.7.
Thank you, Stacy. Come on, I love it. You're on top of it.
So the 4.7.
Thank Laura. She gave me a heads up.
Hi, Laura.
So the 4.7 is for the whole building, including the tennis.
Correct,
Yes.
including the tennis.
Okay.
Lease space, which will be lease space, I guess. All right. And I guess checking, Laura, did you check off that they addressed all of the issues?
The
to
only
your
item
satisfaction?
I didn't see is indicate how emergency vehicle circulation would be accommodated, but this is an existing facility. And so we can do that. I know they're gonna do some interior renovations. That's gonna require zoning compliance. The fire marshal will review it at that time. So I think that can be confirmed at a later.
Although it could be a condition before it goes
And it can be
to.
a condition, yeah.
Before.
Like the
it
turn
goes to
ratio and all that stuff.
trustees. Okay, yeah.
Yes, but it's an existing
Yeah.
facility, so it's likely.
That should have been already
It
been
should
done.
have.
Unless we got
We
bigger
like to be
trucks.
complete.
Okay. All right, so confirmation of REUs and okay. And a review.
Well, I'm checking to see if fire weighed in. Sometimes Brandon Sears.
I don't think
I didn't see it.
see it for that one.
Okay.
It's an existing building. We don't think there's any issue, but it should be reviewed before
Right.
it goes to the trustees. Any other concerns? Issues?
These motions are long.
Please help, Commissioner.
I'm only gonna take it off if unless somebody.
Okay, do you want to start?
Bit,
I was
Okay.
gonna offer, but you're fine.
Yeah,
You
go ahead.
It's Jen.
Regarding conditional land use application CU 24006. I move that based up, it's the Dexter Auxiliary. I move that based upon the information received from the applicant and reflected in the minutes of this meeting, the planning commission finds that conditional use and related information received by the township meets the required standards and findings for conditional land use and recommends approval. Specifically, it is found that the following requirements and findings found in section 36-224 of the Scio Township zoning ordinance have been demonstrated by the applicant. A, it will be harmonious and in accordance with the objectives and regulations of this ordinance. B, it will be compatible with the natural environment and existing and future land uses in the vicinity. C, that the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage way, refuse disposal, or that the person or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequately any such service. D, that the proposed use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to the existing or future neighboring uses, persons, property, or the public welfare. E, that the proposed use will not create additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services that will be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. And finally, with respect to the findings, F, it will be compatible with the township's adopted general development plan, also known as the master plan. Further, the planning commission recommends the following conditions be placed on the subject conditional land use. One is that the applicant seek review from the Scio Township Fire Department of the turn radii for their emergency vehicles. Or is there a better way of saying that?
You could just say emergency vehicles access.
Emergency vehicle access. And then that's the number one. Have we dealt with the others, fellow commissioners and or Ms. Krebs?
Then it would just be the confirmation that the total building REUs are adequate.
That the applicant confirm that the total allocated building REUs will be sufficient
Yeah, and that would be the OHM would.
with
Confirm.
OHM. Well, the applicant confirm with OHM.
Yes.
Okay. And then truck loading, we don't need to deal with. Hazardous substance, we don't. Are all these, now's the time to do it if we're gonna do it, folks.
These were covered.
They were covered.
I know, but do we wanna make them conditional? I know they covered them, but
But that would be covered under the minutes of the meeting. So we just need to make sure that the minutes of the meeting reflect how they responded to each of these.
okay. But their response to our question
Why
is
it
not a
in the
condition.
Motion then, if we don't need to.
Well, we wouldn't have it, none of these are in the motion. But it's just that we need to make sure when the minutes come back that they reflect what the applicant said about each of these items.
These were placed here before they had a chance to answer.
This is just meant to be a sample for you to
Right.
go by.
Right.
It's not, you can change it.
Correct.
And we can, if you think they weren't answered adequately, we can keep that in.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion on the motion? All right, a roll call vote, please.
Gable,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Walsh, yes, Rothney,
Yes.
Riser,
Yes.
Culbertson.
Yes,
Motion carries 6-0.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is a recommendation to the board. Thank you. Thank you. Right, and we're moving on to possible action. PRP number 24001 Luna Drive, new private road. Yes.
Has this come before us before?
No. There isn't a public hearing associated.
Let me go to that one. Found it?
Want me to go first? You want?
Let's go ahead and have the applicant and then.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Pat Keel with Ace Civil Engineering. And I'm here on behalf of Steve Sikowski, who is the owner of Bull Ridge Development. What we're proposing is a single 498 foot private road, Class C private road off of Dexter and Arbor Road with 4 parcel splits. They're on a parent parcel of a little over 12 acres. So what we have is 4 parcels ranging in size from like a little over 2.5 acres to a little under 4. It's a pretty simple project. It's a single straight road with a cul-de-sac. We've submitted plans to the road commission and got approval on the approach from them.
We've submitted drawings to the Water Resource Commission, had them review the storm drainage. We've had a number of meetings with the planning consultant and the engineer as far as issues with the private road. And we performed a tree survey as part of the plan and determined that we need 38 trees to be replanted as part of the project. So we think we've kind of got everything addressed, and we were hoping here tonight to get a recommendation for approval.
You know, now that you described the whole
Big picture.
development, what's the name of the development?
It's Luna Drive.
The development's called
Yeah,
Luna
it's just
Drive?
parcel split, so the drive, we're just asking for approval on the private road tonight. And once we get that, it's my understanding, then we can come in for the formal parcel splits. So.
4 houses might not even be a development name with a name, right? It's just 4 houses.
It's just 4 houses with a private road. Yeah,
What a name.
Laura, would you go through, this is the first private road that some people have seen, so just kind of go through what the process is and.
Sure,
So.
so,
We have.
so private roads are regulated by chapter 24 of the codified ordinances, not in the zoning ordinance. So, if in chapter 24, it talks all about private roads and it talks about different classes of road, class C being the lowest level of class. Each class, is associated with, a specific width, surface type, and number of lots that are typically accessed from the private road. In this case, they're asking for a class C private road, which is 16-foot wide within a 66-foot right of way. And this particular road, although it doesn't have to be asphalt paved, is proposed to be paved and not gravel. As Mr. Scio said, they're just planning to divide later 4 parcels. Those 4 parcels have to meet the standards of the A1 zoning, which is the zoning of the property. So each of these lots have to have 2.5 acres, and I think it's 200 feet of frontage, 200 or 250 feet of frontage. And they all appear to have that, based on my review. As part of this road, the Water Resources Commission is requiring a pretty substantial stormwater drainage area at the south portion of the property, which requires a number of trees to be removed. And so, as Mr. Scio said, they did provide the required tree survey and are required to replace 38 trees. They're proposing to do so on each lot, certain number of trees per lot. It's noted on the plan. I would suggest as part of the declaration and easements that maybe that breakdown be provided in the document as well. So each lot owner understands that they're responsible for that particular number of trees on their lot and the required dimensions for each of those, the 2.5 caliber and if it's deciduous, or 6 feet tall if it's coniferous. They have provided the road maintenance agreement that will be reviewed by the township attorney and OHM and Carlisle Wortman prior to this moving forward to the board. So any comments will be taken care of by the time it gets to the board. I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have, but that's really it's the same kind of process, right? It's we review it here, sort of like a site plan, but based on the chapter 24 standards for private road. You make a recommendation and then the board has the final authority to.
So class Cs, they're not as wide or as heavy or supporting as class class A, class C. But the fire department has weighed in and they can get their trucks in and around and fight fires at these houses if they need to.
Yes, the fire department has reviewed this.
Okay.
And actually they met with us the last time.
Okay.
So yes,
And they're satisfied with ingress and egress such that
yes,
sprinkling isn't required?
correct.
Got it, okay.
We'll move to Stacy.
Yeah, so we also recommended approval of the private road in our letter from June 10th. We just had one outstanding comment, and that was just a recommendation that they provide a minimum asphalt cross-section of 4 inches. That just allows for ease of future maintenance once that time comes. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions related to engineering if you have them.
What did you just say, Stacy? You were asking them to
A 4-inch,
provide a minimum of a 4-inch.
Cross section.
Yeah, asphalt cross section. That just makes it easier to do like road resurfacing projects. If they wanted to do a 2-inch mill and overlay, they would still be able to drive on the 2-inch below there. But it's just a recommendation. They can provide, I believe, 3 inches, 3.5. I'd have to confirm with the private road standards.
I spoke with the owner on that, and he's willing to consider it, but he would rather it not be a condition. We do meet the private road standards with the pavement thickness that's in there. And so we prefer to leave that optional, so when he gets his prices, he can decide then whether he wants to go that extra thickness or not. You know, keep in mind, it isn't even required to be paved. He's trying to do that to make it nicer, but he's also trying to control the cost to a reasonable amount too, so we would prefer that not be part of the motion.
So so I just want to understand this a little bit better. I get where you're coming from. If I were you, I would too. But I'm not, and I just want to understand, Stacy, why the 4, is it 4 feet or 4 inches? 4 inches for cross section is preferable.
We typically recommend that on any project, not just private roads, for parking lots, etc. Just for the ease of a future project. Once this road becomes old and needs some rehab work, it allows for an easier repair. But it's purely a recommendation, and we're comfortable with what the applicant is proposing as well.
Laura, this is a procedural question. Do we have the authority to, I mean, if they meet the standards, do we have the authority to require something more?
I don't think so. It's a recommendation.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing on that question?
Yes.
Like I mentioned, this recommendation is pretty common in our reviews, and I've not seen any, I guess what your question was, I haven't seen anyone consider making it part of a motion. That it's usually just up to the developer, the applicant, etc., if they prefer the ease of maintenance or not. Sometimes we get the response of, no, thank you, we'd prefer not to. In this case, that would be their preference. So we're comfortable with what they're proposing.
I have a question just with the detention pond, and it appears that there are only 2 species of shrubs that have been specified for that. And it doesn't look like those are typical plantings that would be in a detention area. And I'm just wondering if you consulted someone who did that specific type of landscape, or how that was determined. Just because 2 species, it's very easy to have an issue if whatever. And I don't know, Laura, if I did not look closely at the Washoe County resources, if they had any feedback on the plantings at all, or is that beyond their jurisdiction?
I'm gonna let Stacy answer that.
Okay, Stacy. Because they just don't appear to be the typical plantings that you would put in a detention.
Yeah, so OHM doesn't typically review the types of plantings. Generally, the Water Resources does. I also don't recall if they did comment on those or not. They have already approved these plans, so they must be accepting of the plantings that they're providing.
Just a comment on that.
Yeah.
Those, the 2 species that were picked there are on your acceptable list for the plantings that are supposed to be in the infiltration area of the pond. So they're more for a functional purpose than the beauty purpose. So to
Well,
speak.
I was questioning the functional purpose, but
It's basically to help absorb,
right.
and
That's where we have an issue.
they are recommended on your list of plans, yeah.
We gotta change the list.
Okay,
So
so
for your purposes, I mean,
you feel.
you get to rely on the list. We just have some concerns about what we created as a list.
Any other questions on the? I guess one other question, did you look at, the majority of the trees do appear that they're removed because of the, stormwater. So you can't really do anything about that.
No, so this development kind of, the applicant submitted to us a partial application and went on to receive county approvals prior to us doing a full review. And so the county has already approved the stormwater, and had we reviewed it first, it might have been different, but it's regardless now. I mean, that's what's been approved.
And then a question, because these trees need to be provided in, forever, basically. How does that work with making sure that the people that are purchasing the property know that they have to maintain these trees and so forth? How does that work?
Well, it's on the plan, and as I suggested, as part of their declaration of easement, they have the stormwater and the driveway easement and maintenance agreement. I believe that the trees should also be included for each lot. And they, when they choose their lot, they should choose the location of those 8 or 11 trees, depending on which lot they choose, and that should be formalized in the.
And would that be reviewed then when it came in for a zoning
Yep.
compliance? Okay, so the trees would have to be shown on the plan.
On the zoning compliance
On the
application, yep.
Not part of this.
No. Unless you said you don't want it. I mean, I think the way they want to do it is they don't want to plant the trees and then have someone buy the property and want to remove the tree for the location of the home. So doing it this way, the person that purchases the property will know that they have 8 or 11 trees that they're required to plant, and they can do so where they would like to have them on there.
And maintain
Yeah.
They can even choose as long as they meet the criteria and they're on the
They'd have to
approved
meet the
list, they
criteria.
can choose which tree they want.
Box elder.
Some might want A.
Okay. Okay. Any other
Question.
questions or comments? All right.
Based on the information received from the applicant and reflected in the minute of this meeting, the planning commission finds that the private road plans received by the township meets the Class C private road standards outlined in chapter 24 of the Scio Township Codified Ordinances with the following conditions. 1, applicants to apply for land division separately. And 2, the private road maintenance agreement is to be reviewed by the township attorney prior to township board approval of the private road.
And I would just add that they consider the recommendations of the OHM. And
Friendly amendment.
right, and that Laura,
The tree replacement be included as part of the declaration documents.
thank you.
Just note that this is private road permit number 24001 Luna Drive.
Yeah, thank you.
Support.
The motion by Yeaple, supported by Walsh. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Walsh, yes. Moore,
Yes.
Riser,
Yes.
Rothney,
Yes.
Gable,
Yes.
Culbertson.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, we're then moving on to reports. Reports last.
Yeah.
Touch up.
The selection of officers. and files.
No.
You
I
have a copy, I
know
have.
this, but you may or may not.
Oh,
I got it.
our new bylaws, it used
I
to
got it.
be a June
I
meeting.
didn't get your email.
Yeah.
That's weird, I don't.
You don't get the planning commission emails?
I don't
Okay,
know,
we'll leave
somebody
it.
must have, maybe my email's misspelled. I get the one from your friend.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, the group emails are problem. Okay. Stacy, anything for us?
The only thing I could think of to report on that Laura may mention is the Menards Outlot project has been submitted for a site plan review, and we just got it recently. I don't recall what day it came in on, but we're actively reviewing that now.
And I would just, a couple things, I would note that, the town's project that she just spoke of doesn't go to the plan, or to the Board of Trustees until July 8th for their conditional use permit, so they have submitted in advance of receiving their conditional use approval at their own risk. Tomorrow evening at the board, Trailwoods Road Realignment is on the agenda with a public hearing and, potential action for that major amendment. And then July 8th, in addition to the Honey Creek, towns at Honey Creek project, conditional use permit, the rezoning for 6869 Marshall Road will be on that agenda, as well as, Firestone Detail Engineering also finally got their approvals.
Firestone?
Yep.
The towns at Honey Creek, the Menards Outlot. So
Got it.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Oh, is there anybody new that's percolating or?
Yeah, I mean, well, we had a, concept meeting for a very conceptual meeting about, a potential residential development at Parker and Jackson Road. But that was very conceptual.
Boy, that's moving out.
Sewer district,
It's in the sewer district,
you're at the very end,
the very,
At the very end.
high.
but that's the last conceptual.
How many unit?
I can't recall, 150. Sound like 80.
Single family, multi-family?
It would be,
duplex?
it would be single family, potentially duplex, for a portion. I mean, it's very conceptual. I
You
mean,
got a Jackson address?
it's a Jackson address and a Burger address.
It is a Jackson Road address? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it's
No,
on
the
the
Jackson and Parker.
I thought
Jackson
you
and
would
Mar-
think, I thought I heard Jackson County address.
No, no.
Yeah,
It's west, but not that far.
No.
thinking hockey right now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Is there any thought of when that solar ordinance might come back?
Well, I haven't had time,
Yeah.
maybe next meeting, might be the only thing on that
Oh,
meeting. So I don't know if you want to do that, or if you wanted to wait until we had.
End of July.
So that's a question, I guess, for us to discuss.
August, September.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the petition that was circulating did not get enough signatures.
So.
So there will not be a referendum at this point. There is still a group that's working towards getting more. I mean, I think they have a extension of some sort and they're working to get more, but at this point, it will not be on the ballot. And as of November, we'll have new legislation that.
And, yeah, and I think they had a hearing on the community solar. but this is the last week before they recess for summer, so that it's not gonna go. Yeah, so there's gonna be kind of a lull. Yeah.
So I know you gave me some, items to address, the ground cover, the dual use, those types of things. I just haven't had a chance.
And you're gonna be gone, so why don't we not plan on?
Appreciate that, but if we wanted to, we can.
No, you want a sane letter. Okay, let's see, we did set a meeting for the Jackson Road corridor, getting back on track with that, and that'll be, July 15th.
Yeah, that was postponed due to completely unforeseen, so thank you for sticking with it, but
I was like,
it was canceled for a very serious reason.
I'm sure, but it just had been like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Oh, yeah, follow up, I haven't heard anything about this.
Okay, and we hear, let's see, I think it's on the board agenda to accept the, community energy management grant of $100,000. I think it's on the board agenda.
Not tomorrow, I don't.
We got
It's
approval
not,
of the
it
grant?
should
Uh,
be, if it's not, we gotta,
I can.
yeah, we got the offer, I mean, anyway, it should be on the consent agenda. Oh,
Not for right now.
No, but we're gonna talk after this meeting, you and I, and we'll.
Okay.
We can get it added.
okay, yeah, because the official letter came through to Chris Chang, so. Okay, good. The other thing is we find out, this Thursday, whether or not we got the planning, assistance grant for, Jackson Road corridor. So, and that would be a 50,000, well, it's a $50,000 project, and I think we have to, the matching part for the township is it's just over $9,000.
Oh, okay.
So, that's good. All right, and that's, I'll do ESTF right now. Let's see, we finished the native planting, so we're actually gonna be experimenting with the ground cover under the solar, but that won't happen until winter, because they have to kill off the grass and do some other things.
So can you see them?
Yeah, it's gonna be seeded with a short,
Is the plant going to be SEDUM?
no,
Okay.
no, but it'll be a shorter, like, pollinator,
Okay.
seed that they've created to go under,
Solar panel?
solar panels. Yep, so we'll have our own little trial. And we're going to be, the other thing, we have is, October 6th, we're starting to plan the sustainability fair, which will be, on Myers parking lot, not here. And we'll get a 30 by 45 foot tent, have a bunch of people inside, and then we're doing it in conjunction with the Southeast Michigan EV automobile group. So they're gonna have their EVs there, and we'll have a bunch of other stuff there.
What's the date on that?
October 6th, Saturday. And we're discussing times. We wanted it from 1 to 4, and the you guys wanted theirs from 9 to 2. I'm going, I don't get up that early. No, we'll work on that.
No, for sustainability fair.
Yeah, so, that's, and, we did, I think I announced that we did achieve silver for the, Green Communities Challenge. So we will have, an opportunity to have a project next summer. It's a 10-week project with a fellow from the Graham Sustainability Institute that's fully funded, and a technical assistant, so we can come up with a project. It can be a research project or something that would further our sustainability efforts. So, okay. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Reiser.
My report, I emailed to Christie and to Fran, and I emailed to everyone on the planning commission, which apparently doesn't include Ryan yet, so, reach out to Fran and.
Yeah,
That's it.
really.
And then, there's 3 pages. I won't read it. You have it. You can reach out to me if you have any questions. I will segue into, something that the PPP, you recommended last meeting and LPC, and that's at the end. I guess it's not at the end. There's going to be a proposal tomorrow by Bria Shepherd, who was an intern for Anna in 2023, and they went out to the Van Curler and they surveyed all the plants and the invasives, and they built pathways, and they had an idea to restore 6.5 acres of that 90-acre parcel into a prairie meadow. So that involves a controlled burn, that involves preparing the soil, that involves getting some seed, some native planting seeds from Esther, Michigan Wildflowers out in Portland, if you know where her business is. It's a prominent Michigan business that sells seeds for native plants. And there'll be the prairie of, the kind that it used to, once upon a time was there. So there'll be a proposal tomorrow that Rita and Bria are gonna put forward for up to 20,000 of the PPP millage to restore that. There's pathways there. Van Curler Park Preserve rather has recently been the subject of a parking lot upgrade, so it's starting to get more use. So they're gonna try to make that a nicer gem on the northern border, the Van Curler Preserve. So that'll be.
Where's the Van Curler Preserve?
Yes, it's kind of near, the Lhasa, what's that? It's between Joy and HRD here on River Drive.
Okay.
It's got joint interest.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be up for, there'll be a presentation tomorrow from Bria and Florida. With respect to LPC, LPC annual report is out, and you can see that they didn't close on anything in 2024, but several projects are in the hopper, and they anticipate closing 3 or 4 in 2025. And they're also actively targeting contact with high priority property owners. And that means people who have family farms and they gotta decide what they're gonna do with the farm and whether they'll sell it to us outright or sell it to us on a conservation easement. And sometimes, not all the kids see eye to eye, and these things take a while to put together. And then there's a report on the 36 projects completed through 2024. Scio has spent over 8.4 million to acquire these costs, but we've gotten over 12 million from other sources. So we've leveraged our money at greater than 50% from Ann Arbor's green belt, from the feds, from the county, from different state agencies to protect all this, the preserve. So we've got preserve land is over 1,700 acres. We were in for 41%, and almost 60% have come from our partners in that regard. Half of which can be accessed by the public. So that's my report.
Where is the LPC annual report? Okay.
It is located on the board packet under reports. So
Under the BOT?
I can give you a copy if you want one, but yeah, tomorrow's BOT,
Agenda.
it's under H2, agenda item H2.
Great.
Let me show you, Kim, or walk one over.
Do you have an extra copy?
No, I have a copy that I can reprint and give you mine if you'd like. It's not a problem.
That's okay, don't worry about it. I'll see it in one packet.
I just wanted to add one thing to my report, and that was, we had a meeting and reviewed the tree fund policy and updated a few things. And so that is, I think, back in Mariah and general review right now. So hopefully that's gonna be moving. And that also, with the restoration of the prairie, the recommendation for the first project for that is also reforestation of a portion of the West Scio Preserve, an old kind of farm field. So working on not only purchasing the land, but also the restoration of the lands that we have. Okay. ZBA.
There was a meeting in May that we didn't cover last time. Just for background, there are only 3 members of the ZBA present in May, so anything voted on to get approved required all 3 members to approve it. It has to be unanimous, because it has to be a majority of the total ZBA to approve. First item was a lot width on Joy Road that was tied to a conservation purchase that got approved. Second item was in the ravines, was a variance on the setback for a whole house generator that got approved. Third item was setback for an item on South Sea Road that got tabled due to lack of information that we needed to make a decision. That came back to the June meeting, that was last week. Got postponed again because we still need extra
What's the
information from
request
them.
to do what?
They want a setback variance to put in basically a new garage. And they're right up against the property for the entrance off of Zeva on the polo fields. And they're looking for a setback variance on that. The information that was requested was based on documenting the mature trees in the lot, where is the septic field, and there may have been others. The meeting last week, I wasn't at it, but from Chairman Hoff, I know that they didn't get all the information, and they are probably coming back in July.
Yeah, they tabled it again.
Yep,
You'll be able to see
question.
that garage as you travel down Z?
it's a ways back. The
Oh, okay.
property is so deep,
It's narrow.
and yeah, narrow and deep.
Just bring it, do we need to do anything with our ordinances around the generator issue? It seems like those variances come up often or not that bad.
No, I mean, typically, all generators are considered an accessory structure, and so they have to meet the minimum setbacks of the district that they're located in. And in most cases, there's no issue. But you know, in some cases, it's an older house that, you know, is a non-conforming structure, and so in this
Oh,
case,
got
that's
it.
what
It's a
happened.
non-conforming
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. Yeah, 'cause they are noisy. Okay, then, DDA.
We meet on July 8th again. I can tell you 2 interesting things in the DDA district, though. They are supposed to start soon, sometime very soon on the Jackson Road concrete replacement project. Hopefully like in the next couple of weeks soon. It's supposed to be done by like the end of August, early September. It's supposed to take about 10 weeks. The other thing is Woodview is almost open with phase 1.
Yeah.
1 bedroom is $1,900 and a 2 bedroom is $3,800.
Where is that?
Those sound
At
like.
Jackson and Baker
prices, don't
Brown.
they? Well,
Oh,
it'll be
would-
interesting to see how that.
Yes.
What's the name of that development?
Woodview Commons, they have a website up and you can see pictures of the interior of the units. They look very nice.
They're marketing them. They have not received any final COs for any of the units yet.
Oh,
So they are marketing, and they've gotten approval to do by appointment tours,
okay.
but
They
It
still
is
need to
not-
close out.
they still have not closed out any building.
Any building yet? Gotcha.
It's coming.
They
What's
were-
that mean to close out a building?
They don't have, they are
They don't
not
have a certificate of
occupied. It's not
occupancy.
finished.
They only allow people to live in the building.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. What's the 1 bedroom cost?
1,900 on their website, and a 2 bedroom, 2 bath townhouse was 3,800. This was interesting.
Okay, okay, Commissioner
That's
Hahn.
affordable.
All right. John, did you have anything more on LPC or PPP?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Okay.
The only other thing on PPP is, I think that we're looking at presentations, we're getting proposals about a natural playscape back here. You know, I know there's talk in the DDA, who's talking about some kind of park, municipal park, but there's also, you know, we may be putting some kind of a natural playscape back there, and we're looking to get proposals on what some possibilities might be back there. It's to recommend to the board in their advisory capacity, not to spend the money or oversee the project, but, you know, review it.
Commissioner Moore, anything on Western Washtenaw group?
Not much. We met on June sixth. So one of the things we're considering, and this group is kind of turning into a Western Washington powerhouse lobbying group. Because a lot of the conversations are about our interface as a community in the western part of the township, our ability to have influence on the commissioners, Washington County Commissioners, and the decisions that they're making, as well as interfacing with our legislators and our Congress people. So, and Representative Dingle's assistant comes to our meetings quite often, and she thought that would be highly useful too. So one of the things that we're looking at, I mean, the group now, Scio, Chelsea, Dexter Township, did I say Lima, Webster, are some of the regulars in Sylvan, and Manchester, Bridgewater, and Freedom. They have their own little group, and the idea is to bring them in to the fall with us. I think the Dingle's assistant thought that was a good idea because they kind of have their own meeting. So we're looking to do that and pick a time where that would fit everybody's schedule. Wave is working with this new app called Pingo, where people that are booking door-to-door rides can do it themselves. They can see when a bus is available, and what times, and book their own rides. It doesn't have to go through a dispatcher anymore. So that's kind of, and that's been really, really useful. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. People like it. There's a Human Rights Commission that's, there should be something in maybe in November that for village, a senior village that would deal with help with housing, transportation, food, that might be upcoming.
Is that a county-wide?
That'll be a county-wide thing. We won't be meeting again until August.
Right, and I think, yeah, all right, great. And I think I'm up for July for the meetings, and Bob Hyde is up for August. And I do, and then you mentioned you're gonna be gone our first meeting in August? Okay, so we'll need to have a volunteer for be our
keeper.
acting secretary for that. So give some consideration, folks.
Why are you looking at me?
I looked at
Oh, did you? Okay.
several people. Hey, are you feeling targeted?
I am.
All right. And then I just want to note that because of our new bylaws, our old bylaws had election of officers in June, and our new bylaws have us electing officers after the appointments of the new appointments. So it'll be in November. November, or December. Okay.
Are you running a slate? I don't think anybody here is chopping at the bit.
All right, yes, then I just have one announcement and we'll go to public comment, and that is, I just wanted to remind people that Wednesday, we're having the workshop on the Who Speaks for the Trees about the Canton Township challenge. So it's great because there's a planner who's also an attorney who's very familiar with it, and then yes, Norton. Yeah, Norton. And then the grad students are presenting how Canton Township is dealing with that. So it would be very instructive, I think, for a couple of us to attend. I will be there.
Where is that?
It's at WISD, and I can resend the invitation. So,
I think I'm gonna register for.
okay, and you get dinner. So,
Oh, it's in person.
It's in person.
WISD.
Yeah.
How refreshing.
How refreshing, yes. Okay, then we'll
Dinner.
move on, open public comment at 8:58. If there's anyone present who would like to address the planning commission?
I was gonna comment, but I missed my opportunity earlier for 242 Mark Smith, 414
Oh.
West Liberty.
Thank you.
I
Uh-huh.
don't have much to add. I understand some conditions were given to 242 to do some soil sampling. The only additional history I can give you is that spray irrigation stopped on that site in the middle 80s. And to the best of my knowledge, every soil sample from 88 to 91 forward and on.
Okay, thank you. If you would just, we'll record that in the minutes, so if you could sign in under this public comment, that'd be great. Thank you, Mark.
And oh, I do want to ask, Lori, did you get the restrictive covenant?
Yes, I did. Yes. You did. Then we'll move online.
Awesome.
Oh, wait. We have Rob Pattinson, all right.
Mark, could you explain to the panel here, is the testing done under US EPA 8260? What is the sensitivity of that test? It claims non-detect, but is that 500 parts per billion or 500 parts per million, or is it 5 parts per billion? What's that sensitivity?
Rob, I'd have to check the specific EPA certification on that, because soil is a little different than aqueous solutions in the sensitivity to begin with. You don't have the same abilities. I'm sure the sensitivity is high, but I don't think you have the same sensitivity you have if you're dealing with water.
Okay. Good to
So
know. Thank you.
I will call you. I owe you a call and I'll try to get that information for you.
No worries. Thank you. To the planning commission, thank you all very much for your caution tonight. I really appreciated that. And in particular, thank you, Commissioner Walsh. Your words could not have been better said, where probably where Gelman is concerned isn't good enough and you need to be certain. That was perfectly said. Thank you very much, all of you. And thank you, Commissioner Walsh. Well done.
I will say, just as an added comment, we spend an awful lot of time working with the state and the labs and going through this to be very thoughtful and careful about the restrictive covenants and what could or wouldn't be allowed there. So, and I personally spent tens of thousands of dollars going through that process, so.
And thank you for doing that, because otherwise it would be a very vacant. Lighting.
Hardway's letter was encouraging.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right, anyone else?
Move to adjourn.
Move to close public hearing.
Yes. Okay, we can just, okay, yeah.
We're
Public
at
comment?
adjournment time.
Those in favor
Oh.
of closing public comment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public comment is closed at 9:01. And now I will entertain Commissioner Mower's motion is for adjournment. Is there support?
By Riser.
By Riser. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 9:01.
Not debatable.